Get back to where you once belonged. Let's go.
Five, four,
Uno.
Paulie here on the Latino slant. How's it going, everybody? Hope all is well. Oh man, I have a really cool topic to review. It's part one of the Beatles Get Back documentary. This is a marathon, and this is really a uh, a love letter on several levels. So please, welcome to the show. Welcome to the channel. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribed and comment on this video. So what are we talking about? We're talking about the Beatles and the album Get Back. Apparently, there's about 70 hours, or there was about 70 hours of recorded video and audio materials that were in a vault for over 50 years. And now we get to see it. But producer director Peter Jackson of Lord of the Rings fame, he went through it all and put these three parters together. And each one is about 2.5 hours. I mean, this is a lot of footage. So we're going to go over part one today and enjoy this with you. I think this really works on three levels: for Beatles fans, for musicians, and for the general public. Now, probably if you are not a musician or a music fan or a Beatle fan, to the general public, this might seem not up your alley, just as far as it being 2.5 hours each piece. So that's probably going into this. Probably my only I wouldn't say concern, but just if you are not a musician, a music fan, or a Beatles lover, I think cinematically this probably won't keep you for 2.5 hours. Now, for those Beatle fans, this is gold. This is finding lost treasure. This is lost treasure. This is lost treasure, and there's no other way to describe it. The euphoria, even with the opening of part one, where you see the empty studio in which soundstage and the white cyclorama in which the Beatles set up camp for 2 weeks, and for 2 weeks they have to create, write, and create a new album and get ready to perform live, which they haven't really done in front of a huge audience in 4 years. I think we're now about 2 years past the Hey Jude live performance. So there is a lot writing. That is like the brief setup for the Beatles going in. I love the way Jackson breaks these down. He breaks them down into each day and starts with day one. Part one is really the first week. And in the first couple of days, you hear a lot of familiar tunes that are eventually that make it on the Get Back album. Tunes that I have here, such as Get Back, of course. Also, as well, The Two of Us. And which is really interesting in how they show it is musical numbers from George Harrison that eventually get passed up, but end up on his landmark album, All Things Must Pass. And this is a through line in the Beatles' later history. And also, this is just the through line in which, the Beatles kind of suffered from having really three geniuses in the same band. Is that the third one, the youngest one, eventually just wants more than just two songs per album and wants to be heard more. So not only do we get to see the genesis of these songs and how they work through these songs and their musicianship and how they master their how their creativity just flows and really how they spark and challenge each other. But we see the personality clashes. The brother, kind of like the two brothers um, of John and Paul, really how they kind of goad each other, and they give it a laugh. Like they're really their friendship is on a different level. Whereas the relationship with George as being the younger brother, you know, it's it's got its, you know, its strengths and its weaknesses. So the first 3 days, you're really seeing that um, "Don't Let Me Down," and then they talk about playing. You know, where are they going to play it? Like, they're literally, "Are we going to play here? This place is huge. Where else can we play?" There's all these different ideas. There's at one point where you see George's insecurity in already like the towards the end of the second day, where he talks and praises Eric Clapton and how you should maybe use him. He keeps passing it off. He keeps passing himself off, and it's a real trip to see. So it's like that insecurity, along with Paul's, dominating, controlling, but really wanting the best out of everyone. And you got to understand, all these guys are still incredibly young and have had so much success. And I don't even think any of them are a day over 30 at this point. So it's just amazing on how successful they had been, and how this was really looking like their last hurrah. In fact, in day 3, they're joking about, like, really, this is like our divorce. This is like one of our last hurrahs. On day 4, they talk. Paul talks. Paul starts, or I think actually, sorry, it's like towards the end of day 3. Paul starts talking about how annoying he sounds to himself when he's trying to talk to his bandmates about these, about getting these songs together. It's so fascinating, man. It's so fascinating because I wouldn't say he's taking the piss out of himself, but he's like, he's like, look, I realize that I'm annoying, and I'm annoyed that I'm annoying, and George says, I know you're not annoying, you're not annoying, and no, it was really great to see. And let's go ahead and kind of look at some footage, um, because this is from the official trailer on Disney Plus, Walt Disney Studios. And I have to say, the fact that Disney let this ride, they didn't take anything out. I mean, like, they didn't censor. It's pretty fascinating. And there's a cyclorama that I told you about. So in January 1996, they had over 57 hours of the most intimate footage ever shot of the band. It really is. I mean, it's so, everything's right there. Everything. You really get to, it's almost like, if you didn't know any better, like, you're almost seeing an edited movie. You're seeing these characters up close, and then far away you're seeing their reactions towards each other. It's just it, I don't think I've ever seen a rock documentary like this. Now, I think at the end of the day, it all leads up, and we're only talking about part 1 here, and we're going to wrap it up in a few minutes, but it really ends up on the rooftop that a lot of us are familiar with. And so I'm really enjoying the journey that this band is taking, because they don't know they don't know where they're going to end up as far as performing, far as performance wise. Now in day 4, they're talking about performing, all these like really awful design concepts and sets. Everyone's throwing their input in, from Yoko Ono to John Lennon, to the producers. So, I mean, there's even talk of filming of, performing live at an amphitheater in Tripoli, in Libya. Like, we just literally, we get a whole bunch of people, get on a ferry, and go across. I mean, it's a trip. It's a trip. And on day 4, they talk about their loss, that they really still have never recovered from the loss of their manager, Brian Epstein, in regards to the band's discipline. It's just amazing what they talk about and what we get to what's there. It's just fascinating. Day five, really, what's really cool is that each day now you're seeing a different member bringing a new song that they wrote during the night, and you're just like, you're absolutely spellbound that a human can create something like this, like George's song "I Me Mine," in a couple hours over the night. What's amazing for me is like whenever I see a fellow human being reach the height of their creativity, is that I'm part of their human race, and I was seeing that with this documentary, and still was part one. Let's uh let's play a little bit more of this footage. Can come on up. Um, so yeah, day five. They're talking about the production. They're talking about maybe going to Tripoli. But you're really hearing the songs from the first 4 days. The sound of those songs are really coming together. They're not sounding so rough, even live when they're practicing them. From Get Back to I Me Mine to the two of us across the universe. Oh my God, it's just fantastic. Day six, we get to see Linda Easton McCartney, and she comes on with her camera. And this is another thing I really want to tip my hat off to Peter Jackson, because there's so much of us we're just the main view of us watching this is that we're flies on the wall. And we've always talked about that. God, what I wouldn't give to be a fly on the wall and see the Beatles do Sergeant Pepper. See you know be in the same room where MLK is writing his "I Have the Dream" speech. Whatever that is, whatever that moment is, this is it for Beatles fans. And that's where I think that the regular cinematic fan they're just going to tune out, because cinema wise, this is a documentary, so you're just sitting and listening to these creators. So I think it'll work for most, but not for some, and I get it why it doesn't work. But Peter Jackson does his best to intersplice and I wouldn't want to say liven it up, but I definitely want to say cut away from that same 2.5 hours of being in the same room with the Beatles. So on that day six, you see Linda and her camera. She's taking photos of the band, and boom, Peter Jackson cuts to those photos. I was just like, it was just amazing. And then there's flashbacks, as you see here. There's flashbacks that they cut through, and even in the beginning of part one, which is all we're talking about today, and we're going to wrap it up right now. At the beginning of part one, Peter Jackson does a quick overview from 1955 all the way up to 69, like a very brief history of the Beatles, which I think is good if you've never seen the Beatles, if you don't know their story. Now, what I would do is that if you're interested, listen to a couple of the records. If you really become a fan, then watch it. This is really for the hardcore fans like me. Other songs in day six are For You, and then Get Back, how there was this whole interesting anti-white nationalism and anti-immigrant sentiment that they had. They had a lot of different lyrics in Get Back. I think they opted out to be a little bit more kind of not so obvious in their lyrics for that. And then Let It Be, and then Let It Be. Um, Finally, it ends on day seven of part one. Two things happen. The publishing rights guy, they have a publishing rights guy coming on down and talking to the band. And again, you see the dynamic where it's always Paul taking the lead, then Ringo kicking back, then John inputting, but then George is just always being on the side. This ends where George quits the band. He doesn't come back. Then over the weekend, they have a meeting, I believe, either at Ringo's house. It doesn't go well. And that's where the Beatles Get Back Part 1 ends. And I cannot wait to get to Part 2, then Part 3. And hopefully we will have a couple people join us. But this is this is my review, my thoughts on the piece. And I, I really, you know, really had grown up as my mom and my parents were the first generation of our family to love the Beatles and hand down those albums to me. I've always have and had the Abbey Road and the Let It Be albums, the originals in my collection. Those are from my parents, and this is a fantastic love letter and really a submergence into just how the Beatles did what they were able to do. But right now it's not looking good, the end of part one. So I like how Peter Jackson is really like trying to weave his story of drama and dramatic conflict. And there's a lot of conflict. It's not lacking a conflict here. So, all right, that is my recommendation, my review of the Beatles Let It Be. It's currently streaming only on Disney Plus. It's produced by Apple Corps, which is the Beatles, all the living remaining Beatles, Peter Jackson, Weta, and Disney. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this so much. And yeah, get back. Get back to where you once belonged. Oof. Get back, Loretta. Enjoy.
Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. It's land.
Yeah, but is this the unplugged version? I don't know. I think it's the unplugged version.
All right, Paulie, let's go.